Chapter 1. The first word I ever spoke alone. The room was small, the light was low. Outside, the world was moving fast, cars, people, sounds. But inside, everything was still, just me, my notebook, and my mirror. I sat on the floor. My knees were close to my chest. My hands were cold. On the page in front of me were English words, simple ones. I had written them many times, but I had never spoken them, not even once. My heart was heavy. I wanted to speak. I wanted to say one word, but something inside me was scared. I looked at my face in the mirror. I saw my own fear. My eyes looked worried. My lips were tight. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I tried again, still nothing. The word I wanted to say was not long. It was not hard. I had read it 100 times. I had heard it in movies. It was hello, just that, one soft word. But it felt like a mountain. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I said it in my mind. Hello. Again. Hello. Then I looked at the mirror and whispered, hello. It came out slow, like a secret, but it came out. It was real. It was my voice. It was my beginning. I looked at myself again. Something had changed. I was still the same person, but I was also someone new. I had done something small, but it felt big. I had spoken in English. No one had helped me. No one had told me what to say. No one had corrected me. And no one had laughed. It was just me and my voice. I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to feel proud. That night, I said more words. My name is... How are you? Nice to meet you. I didn't care if my sentences were perfect. I just wanted to speak. I remembered my school days. I always stayed quiet in English class. When the teacher asked a question, I never raised my hand. I knew the answer. But I didn't want to speak. I was afraid. I thought others would laugh at my voice, my accent. So I stayed silent. But now, in my room, there was no one to laugh, no one to judge. I was free. I could speak as much as I wanted. I could make mistakes. I could learn in my own way. I was not waiting for a teacher. I was becoming my own teacher. Every day I practiced. Just 5 minutes at first, then 10, then more. I said what I saw. This is a chair. That is a table. I have a pen. I talked about my day. I woke up late. I ate rice. I feel tired. My words were simple, but they were real. They were mine. I learned how my lips moved. I watched my face in the mirror. I copied the way actors spoke in movies. I listened. I repeated. I spoke again. Slowly, my fear became smaller. My voice became stronger. Some days were hard. I thought I was not improving. I thought I was too slow, but I didn't stop. Because I remembered that one moment, that first hello. It had opened a door inside me, a door I never knew was there. I kept walking through it. I kept going. One word became two. Two became four. Sentences grew. My confidence grew. Speaking alone was not strange anymore. It was my habit. It was my strength. I didn't need a big classroom. I didn't need a perfect book. I didn't need expensive courses. I just needed a little courage and a quiet place. I just needed to believe in my own voice. That first hello was not just a word. It was a promise to never stay silent again. Now, when I look back, I thank that quiet room, that small mirror, that soft whisper. That moment changed everything. It was the start of my journey, the first step. And if you are in your room now, afraid to speak, let me tell you, start with one word. Any word. Say it to the mirror. Say it to yourself. That word is the key. It can unlock your voice. It can begin your story. You don't need anyone's permission. Just begin. Speak. Whisper. Believe. Because when you say your first word, you are no longer just a learner. You are a speaker. And that is the first real victory. Chapter 2. My room became my classroom. It didn't happen in a school. It didn't happen in a class. It started in a small, simple room. My room, a bed, a chair, a table, a mirror, nothing special. But in time, that room changed. It became something new. It became my school, my world, my training ground. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a partner. But I had a strong reason to learn. And I had myself. Each morning I woke up and sat on my bed. I looked around. The room was quiet. I picked up my notebook. It was full of words I had written before. Some were easy. Some were strange. But they were mine. I opened the first page. I read a few lines. Then I said them out loud. My name is Allie. This is my room. I want to learn English. These were my first lessons. I didn't wait for someone to teach me. I made my own lessons. The chair in the corner, that became my teacher. I stood in front of it and said, "Good morning, sir." Then I answered as if the chair had asked me something. "What's your name?" "My name is Allie." "Where are you from?" "I am from Pakistan." Helped. It gave me a chance to speak, to try, to make mistakes without fear. My mirror became my partner. I stood in front of it and looked at my face. I said every sentence while watching my lips. I watched how my mouth moved. I copied the way actors spoke in movies. I smiled when I said, "Nice to meet you." I looked serious when I said, "I don't understand." I repeated the same words many times. I am happy. I am tired. I want tea. My voice became stronger. My face became more confident. I made rules for myself. Every day I had to speak at least 5 sentences. I had to write 5 new words. I had to read something in English, a label on a bottle, a small article online, even subtitles in movies. I paused the movie and repeated the line. Then I said it again in my own way. I was not just watching English. I was living it. My notebook became my best friend. I wrote in it every day, not just words, but stories, feelings, thoughts. If I didn't know a word, I looked it up. I wrote the meaning. Then I wrote a sentence with it. Then I said it out loud, again and again, until it stayed in my memory. I didn't care if the grammar was wrong. I didn't care if the spelling was not perfect. I just wanted to understand, to speak, to express myself. Some days I felt bored. I felt tired. I thought, why am I doing this? But then I remembered why I started. I remembered that first word. Hello. I remembered how it felt. I wanted that feeling again, that power, that joy. So I kept going, day after day, step by step. My room stayed the same, but I was changing. At night, I would turn off the lights and close my eyes. I would imagine myself in another country, talking to someone in English, asking for directions, making a friend, giving a speech. These dreams made me smile. They gave me hope. They made my practice feel real. I started to think in English. Not always, but sometimes. When I looked at a book, I said, "This is a book." When I picked up my bag, I said, "I have a black bag." I spoke in English, even when I was alone. My thoughts were becoming my lessons. My room was no longer just a room. It was a classroom, a stage, a home for my new voice. I didn't need a big school. I didn't need money. I didn't need to go abroad. I just needed to believe in myself, my mirror, my notebook, my voice. These were my tools. They were enough. They made me feel strong. They made me feel free. And slowly, something beautiful happened. English was no longer a subject. It was no longer a fear. It became part of my life, like my toothbrush, like my breakfast, like my name. I didn't wait for someone to teach me. I taught myself. I didn't wait for the right moment. I made every moment right. My room gave me that space, that silence, that safety. It helped me become more than just a student. It helped me become a speaker. And now, when I walk into that same room, I still see the chair, the mirror, the notebook. But I also see my journey, my effort, my voice, and I smile. Because this room, this small, quiet room, was the best classroom I ever had. Chapter 3. One sentence changed everything. It was an ordinary day. The sun was out. People were walking fast. The city was alive with sound, horns, voices, footsteps. I had left my room. I was on the street. I didn't plan anything. I just needed to buy something from the shop. My notebook was not with me. My mirror was far away. My room was behind me. I felt like I had stepped out of a dream and into the real world. I entered a small shop. The man behind the counter smiled. He said something in Urdu. I answered politely. Then, without thinking too much, I pointed to a packet and said, "How much is this?" The words just came out, software slow, but clear. The shopkeeper looked surprised. Then he smiled. 50 rupees, he replied, in English. I nodded. Okay, I said. I gave him the money. He gave me the packet. It was done. I walked out of the shop with a strange feeling. My heart was beating fast, but not from fear, from joy, from pride. I had done it. I had spoken English to a real person, not in my room, not to a mirror, not to a chair, to a real human being. And he had understood me. He had replied. We had a conversation, short, simple, but real. That one sentence made me feel like I could fly. I went home and stood in front of the mirror. I smiled wide. I said it again. How much is this? I laughed. I felt brave. I felt new. That evening I practiced more. I said, "Can I help you?" "Where's the station?" "I want a cup of tea." My voice was stronger. My fear was smaller. One real moment had opened a door, and I wanted to walk through it again and again. After that day, I started to look for more chances. I didn't wait for someone to speak to me. I created the moment. At the bus stop, I asked, "Is this going to the market?" In a library, I said, "Do you have English books?" Even online, I wrote small messages in English. Sometimes people replied, sometimes they didn't. But I was no longer afraid. I had tasted the power of one sentence, and I wanted more. I began to listen more carefully. In shops, on the street, in videos, in songs. I listened for the rhythm, the sound, the feeling of English. I repeated the lines I liked. I wrote them in my notebook. I practiced them again and again. Slowly, I started to understand more. Not everything, but enough. Enough to feel strong. Enough to keep going. My world became a classroom. Every street, every shop, every bus ride was a lesson. I didn't need a teacher. Every person around me became a teacher. Every conversation was a test. And I wanted to pass it, not with perfect grammar, but with real words from my heart. Sometimes I made mistakes. I said the wrong thing. People laughed, but not in a cruel way. They helped. They corrected me. I said thank you and kept going. I started to enjoy my mistakes. Each one taught me something new. I said he instead of she. I forgot the word for window. I used the wrong tense, but it didn't stop me. In fact, it made me better. It made me human. I was not trying to be perfect. I was trying to be real, and that made all the difference. Now, English is not something I keep in my room. It's not locked in a notebook. It's not a private practice anymore. It's part of me. It walks with me. It speaks with me. It helps me connect, ask, laugh, and share. I don't need to wait for the right time. Every time is the right time. Every moment is a chance to speak. And I think back to that day, that first sentence. How much is this? 4 simple words, but they opened a new life. They gave me a new voice. That one sentence was small, but it changed everything. Because from that moment, I knew I could do it. I knew I could speak. I knew I could learn. Not in fear, but in freedom. So if you're still in your room, still afraid, still waiting, don't. Step outside. Say one sentence. Any sentence. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. And once you say it, your world will change, just like mine did. One sentence at a time. One voice. One brave heart. One amazing journey. See you in the next video.